Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Ys VIII, Lacrimosa of Dana from Ghostbusters, Inferno walkthrough, and this is going to be Chapter 2, the Castaway Banquet. A little bit of a misleading title, because the entire chapter is called that, but this is kind of the focal point of what's going to be happening in the majority of this mission. So at this point in the game, the progression is quite simple. You're going to be moving to an area that you've not explored before. You're going to do potentially a dungeon, then a boss, or maybe more than one boss. And then you're going to find a castaway person, a member of your crew. You'll bring them back to the town that we're building, and then from there on out we'll be able to access new areas, because the more people you have, the more areas open up. And you will be progressing through the world like that, akin to something like a Metroidvania, but a lot more simple. And you're just going to be building and building and building until you get to the fulcrum and the finale. At this moment in time, I'm going to be battling back through this area. I'm not going to be warping too much at the very beginning, because it gives me an opportunity to do as much combat as I can to build skills up, and to just give you an outset of exactly what I'm doing. So, if you kill an enemy in mid-air, you get an experience bonus, which can be really useful for building levels early on and to just give you a little bit of an edge. And with Adol, it couldn't be more simple. Adol gets a move that is that like rising current move where he spins around and it does wind and it puts people into the sky. After you do that move, you can then combo them in mid-air, and you will almost always finish them off because the enemies right now are weaker than us. We're level 7, they're only level 3. So by doing this, you can compound some early experience to add to your characters, which will be very, very helpful. One of the aspects of Ys that always kind of put me off getting into the series was that it has a reputation for being quite grindy. The game does reward skill, but if you want to enjoy a lot of the boss fights, you have to generally be close to their level. And I found this out the hard way by my first run. Pretty much every boss in this game on my first run through Inferno, I killed them under-leveled. Some were like 2 or 3 levels under, some were 10 levels under, and if you want an easier time and just to have a lot more fun, level up to whatever level the boss is. That's what I'm going to be doing in this run, because in my opinion it's the best piece of advice I can give you. The only problem is, grinding can take a while. Killing enemies repeatedly is not the easiest thing to do for me personally, because I'm not a big fan of farming and grinding and repeating things like that, but I cannot deny the importance of it. I also cannot urge you enough to partake in your village. Do the side quests, interact with each of the members, access the tailor when she's there, access the blacksmith when she's there. Make sure you're constantly going to these facilities and optimizing everything you can around your character, because it will give you an easier time. And I can't begin to stress how difficult this game can seem at times. It can seem incredibly difficult. You're not going to get an accurate representation of these videos, because these videos are not how the game plays out. These videos are how the game plays out on the best day, and that just doesn't... It doesn't show the footage of me getting wrecked. It doesn't show the footage of me constantly missing flash guards or having problems with wonky AoEs or lingering hitboxes. And all of this exists. However, when you get to a certain level and understanding with the game, it definitely gets easier. But until that point happens, I cannot stress the importance of leveling to a degree so that you feel like you stand a chance. In Ys VII, the game that was before this one, if you weren't a high enough level to certain bosses, you just couldn't damage them. You did 1 or 2 damage, which is really bizarre, but at the same time it sets a pretty good precedent, because it teaches the player that you potentially should be a little bit stronger here. However, the great news is, if you're a good player and you don't mind hitting a boss 500 times, you can totally do it. You can 1000% do it. The game gives you the choice between kind of leveling past your problems or facing them head on, and for the purpose of this walkthrough, we're going to do a combination of both, but on these higher difficulties, be under no illusions, guys. You are going to have to earn every inch of progress in this game. And you can go on GameFAQs and you can read about how everybody says that the flash guard and the flash move is overpowered, and it is, but it doesn't make it any easier to time. You still are going to have some player agency, and all of your victories are going to have to come from you. So this is by no means going to be an easy journey, but it's going to be a very worthwhile one, a very fun one, and hopefully a very rewarding one. But just then, that was a bunch of transitions of me doing things in the village, talking to the different members of our crew at the moment, interacting, building beds, trying to do everything that I can. And the reason that I'm going to be doing that and trying to urge you to do the same is when you do missions for your team, not only can you get items and specific perks and things like that, pieces of equipment, accessories, you also can get passive stats. So by helping people out and improving their approval of you, you will get increased strength, increased defense, increased HP. And 5 strength is not the biggest thing in the world, but it does add up. It might be the difference between hitting a boss 50 times and hitting it 42 times, but I would rather hit something 42 times than 50, so for me, it's a big thing. The strategies that I'm going to be utilizing for the most of this are going to 1000% be aggressive. It's the only way I can really play. So whenever there is a choice between attack and defense, I will choose attack every single time. And I know to a lot of people that play JRPGs, this might seem a strange thing, because I know that there is this fixation on getting the best armors, getting the best defenses, and using the healing items, and, you know, just completely tanking things, because that's kind of the mentality that those turn-based games built into you. You don't need that mentality in this game, and it will actually hurt you a lot. On Inferno, because everything kills you in 1 to 2 hits, it doesn't matter how fancy your armor is or how high your defense is, you're still going to take incredible damage. So instead, if you go whole hog into attack, you can kill the enemies just as fast as they kill you, and instead of focusing on defense, you can be entirely aggressive. This isn't going to suit everybody, and one of the easiest parts about Ys, if you're willing to do so, is the item usage. I will not be using any items in this walkthrough, not a single one. It's the only thing I'll be doing that's item related is I'll be cooking. So if you class the food that you cook for the status effects, technically I'll be using those, but when it comes to interacting with the game and taking on encounters, there will be no moment where I pause it and do anything, because it's just not the way I like to play, and I feel like if I rely on something in those menus that you don't have, it can make it more difficult for you to emulate my strategies. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't. This game has hundreds of items, guys. Hundreds of healing items, dozens of revive items. There is literally no reason not to use them, other than self-challenges or self-restrictions. So, if you're having a tough time, just farm a few items, rely on them, and get through, and it will work. Like, it's not something that I personally like to do, but you cannot deny its effectiveness. And even on Inferno, when they limit your items, I never had a problem with not having enough items. I always had nearly 9 of every revive items. There are hundreds of tiny heals that you can get from food, which is kind of crazy. But as I mentioned, the only thing I'll be using with an item is when you cook certain items, you can stop yourself from getting status effects for a period of time, and you can increase your attack for a period of time. And those are 2 things that I'm going to be using a lot because they're awesome. But here is a Sabrodo. This guy's really interesting, and he introduces you to the concept of one of the most annoying aspects of projectiles in Ys. Do you see the balls that he fires just then? It can be very difficult to judge the depth perception on them, because they're not designed in the best way. This is not the worst example of it, so you're not going to have too many issues with him in particular. The thing to learn that's the most important piece of information with that projectile that he does, if he's aggroed on you instead of your team, when he fires those balls, regardless of where you are, they will always land where you are. So if you stand still and wait, you can time the ball to get a flash guard and then go and attack him. It's the best way to dodge that move outside of just dodging naturally. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it though. But a lot of the projectiles in this game can be very difficult to see and very difficult to judge exactly where they are. Later on, this gets ridiculous, and I'm going to definitely be shedding quite the amount of tears. There will be a Lacrimosa when it comes to my dislike and contempt towards projectiles, but I'll save that for a little bit later on. This area as well, on this coastal white sand area, it's a bit of a pain in the arse, because there is a lot of enemies close together, and you can oftentimes get hit by something that you didn't even realise you'd aggroed. The crabs that I'm killing right now, they have this annoying jump attack where they come down on top of you, but once you get the timing for it, it's a free flash guard every time to get some crits and kill his friends. And these enemies right here, the seahorses, the seapusses, because they are still under our level, we can kill them quite quickly. They do a projectile of water that I just dodged then, and then when you're close they probably have a melee attack, but it's one of those attacks that I don't really pay attention to because I'm too busy killing them. A lot of enemies in this game can be completely overwhelmed, and if you're an Ys fanatic and you've played all the older games, you'll remember the bump system. Well, to kind of homage the bump system, it seems like frame advantage is a big thing in these games, so certain enemies, once you start hitting them, until you finish your string, they can't do anything, and then when they start to do something, if you hit them again, you'll interrupt them. So you can pretty much spam your way to victory as long as you get that first hit, and as long as you have the moves to continue attacking. And if you combine your skills as well into the moves, you'll be fine, because Adol has, I think, like a 4-hit combo. That's his base combo. But you can do 3 hits skill, 3 hits skill, 3 hits skill, and you will never stop attacking and never be in any kind of recovery. But if you look at the bottom right where my characters' profiles are, you'll notice there's a red bar creeping atop their HP. When that gets to the end of the green bar, you will level up. Pretty simple stuff. Another mechanic that you can utilise when you're in the field is if you stand still for a few seconds, your HP will start to regenerate. So if you're ever low on HP or low on life and you need a quick pick-me-up and you don't want to use items, you can passively recover. It takes a little bit too long for my tastes, and I'm probably going to discuss that later on when I think about the philosophy of it. But it's just something to note, just in case you need the added piece of HP. Also, you might have noticed just then there was a pod of fish, a little school of fish just there, fish shadows in the water. I'm not going to be doing any fishing in this run, guys. It's not because the fishing's not useful or it's not fun. The fishing's great, but I just don't need to fish, and this is going to be quite a minimalist walkthrough, so I just want to put in here what needs to be in here. That said, there are 24 fish in this game. The final one is in the final area of the game. If you can capture all those fish and give them to Shoebill, the bird, you will get one of the best rings in the game that would complement my strategies immensely. And I will be using that ring against the final boss and the true final boss. So if you want to follow my strategies to a T, I would recommend fishing. There is a decent amount of facts online to help you know where everything is if you need to find any specific ones. It's not the most intensive thing and it's not that difficult, but it is very worthwhile. Also, right now, I'm coming to this area because I know I won't be coming here for a while. I want to pick up as many resources as I can. I get the gauntlets from the chest. I won't be using them because a lot of the status effects on Inferno don't seem to be too useful. And when I was researching to see if any of them were useful, all I could find was in relation to easy mode. Because apparently on easy mode on the speedrun, if you use burn status, it does incredible damage to enemies and kills them really quickly. But when I experimented with it, it seemed almost completely pointless. So, I haven't found any status effects that I can honestly say are all that good, except for maybe freeze. But there is Allison, she's the tailor, she's going to go back to the camp and allow us to make accessories, and that's what we're going to be doing in the next video, but you won't see that, so make sure you do it, guys. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. That's what you need to remember with the philosophy of this walkthrough. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.